What is going on, everyone? Give It Thought back here today for another Final Fantasy 15 news update. So it looks like from an interview with Hajime Tabata, who is the game's lead director, that Final Fantasy's open world ends after the first half of the game. And I don't exactly know how I feel about that. Which, if you remember how Final Fantasy 13 was structured, it functioned in the exact opposite of this. So it will be interesting to see how that plays out. But let's examine some of the quotes from Tabata himself, if only to get a better idea of what to expect from the final game. In an interview with Famitsu, Tabata told them that, and I quote, "As for Final Fantasy 15 structure, it has both an open world part and a linear part. The open world continues through the first half, and because of the story, the second half progresses linearly." So right there we get the information from the horse's mouth. Final Fantasy 15 will be half open world and half linear. And I know that may irk some people. But before I get into my opinions on that, let's look into a second quote from that same interview. Again, quoting Tabata, "The first half of Final Fantasy 15 keeps going as an open world, but the story in the second halves is led by a linear path. That way you won't get bored of an open world as the rest of the game gets tightened up." So there are a lot of assumptions that one could make from that quote. One that seemed to generally pop up in my mind was that the game had an unfocused development. Why would you get bored of an open world? There should be enough stuff in there to keep you interested throughout the playthrough. And I don't see why they would have to change that halfway through the game. But if it works, I'm happy to play it, and you won't hear me complaining. But I know a lot of people will, and that's what has me scared about this particular part of the game. But moving on just a bit, another quote I wanted to read very quickly was that when asked about how far Chapter 3 was into the game, Tabata responded with, "I believe it covers about 15% or so. The chapters go from 0 to 15. So because up to Chapter 3 only covers 15% of the game, it is impossible to do the math to figure out where the halfway point is to where the linear path starts. Because going off the evidence we have that 3 chapters equal 15%, that would make 1 chapter equal 5%, given that each of them are equal in length. So using that math, it would take up to Chapter 10 to equal 50% of the game, leaving only the last 5 chapters for the linear path. So that math is obviously completely wrong. So it's really hard to guess where the linear path will kick in. In saying that, I realize that I'm coming off a bit negative on the linear path part, but I honestly don't mind. As long as the linear path is gripping and holds my attention, it could be the entire game. The only thing that worries me is the differing playstyles and how that will affect my enjoyment of the game halfway through. But that just means the open world has to be really good so that I dread the linear path. But if it was really good, then why would they change it halfway through the game? I don't know, these are just some questions I have, and I hope that some people can answer them out there. After all, that is why I made this channel in the first place, and that is to talk to people about video games, which is my favorite thing to do. So I would love to know your guys' opinions on this matter down in the comments. I honestly don't mind what kind of game this is as long as it's good, and I have really high hopes for this one. But I guess we'll see around November 29th what type of game this will be. And I think that's where I'm going to end today's video. If you enjoyed this video, why not subscribe? All you have to do is click the annotation in the upper left corner of this video and you'll be taken right to my channel where you can do just that. Also, if you enjoyed this video, why not check out the last video I did on Final Fantasy 15? It was all about the voice cast and how they cross over from other games. It's really interesting, so go give that a watch. Alright, I think that's it for me today, everyone. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, give thought to everything.